The first and most important reason to have food reserves is to be prepared in case of an emergency. There are an average of 392 large-scale natural disasters a year. Add to this the possibilities of unemployment, accidents, and downturns in the economy that have 43 million Americans on food stamps, and food reserves make all kinds of sense. But food reserves are not just about you, are they? They're about you and all the people you care about. Let me illustrate my point. The price of food is continually rising. What if you found out about a grocery store that opened up in your neighborhood with prices from 10, 15, even 20 years ago? Would you shop there? Probably. What if the food was free? Would you keep it to yourself? Or would you feel inspired, even responsible to share that gift? Efoods Global can help you and your family and friends prepare for an uncertain future with our food reserves. And we can even show you how to do it for free. The more of us that are prepared, the more generous and empowered we will all be, and the safer our families will be.
Now, let's continue. Of this? Well, it's something we've told you about for a long time. We are burning our food supply. Michael Grunwald, he's the national correspondent for Time magazine. I have to tell you, Michael, when you have global food prices going up in the last year, 83%, I'm sorry, over the last 3 years, 83% increase in global food prices, you have a problem. One of the problems is ethanol. You want to explain?
Sure, and it's biofuels in general. I mean, as you mentioned, there are other parts of the problem. You know, gas prices are skyrocketing, and you know, there's been some weird weather. But at least a third of the problem probably is the fact that farmers around the world, and particularly in the United States, are growing fuel instead of food. And that's Michael, as you mentioned, supply and demand. When you increase the demand, the price is going to go up.
All right, but let's put this into context, because this is something that we've been talking about. Before anybody started down this ethanol stuff, we were on this program saying, this is the dumbest thing you could possibly do. Let's not burn through our fuel supply. Ethanol doesn't work. Tell me, how much grain does it take to fill up an SUV and use that same grain? How long can a human survive on that same amount of grain?
You could feed an adult male for a year on the amount of grain it would take to fill up an SUV. So you know, this is a problem because of government subsidies and government mandates that have created this artificial demand for basically growing fuel. Instead, we're feeding we're feeding our gas tanks instead of feeding ourselves. You know,
there's a lot of people, because I don't think it's getting a lot of coverage. There's riots in the Middle East. There's riots in Indonesia. I mean, it's bad. The demand for food and rice that is being rationed now around the world, you got to ask yourself, you know, they hate us right now because of our foreign policy and us being in bed with dictators like Egypt or Saudi Arabia just for oil. How much is the rest of the world going to hate us when we're starving their people to death because of an invisible gas?
I think that's a fair point. I mean, there are riots in Mexico, riots in Haiti, right in our backyard. I mean, you talk about a place like Pakistan, which already as if it wasn't unstable enough. The rising food prices there have added to that instability, and as we found out, when Pakistan gets unstable, we can feel it here in the United States.
Just give me one last piece here. The government is currently paying, in our tax dollars, $1.8 billion a year to stop farmers from farming on good land for environmental reasons. You say we're doing the same thing with for environmental reasons with ethanol and fuel for our hybrids. You actually say that all of this stuff is making the environment much, much worse.
Yeah, almost all of it. I think, deforestation right now is about 20% of our carbon emissions. And the sort of long story short is that when you create this artificial demand for grain, people are going to grow more grain, and they're not going to grow it in parking lots. They're going to grow it in forests and wetlands. And these are places that originally stored immense amounts of carbon. So while these biofuels do burn, in some cases slightly cleaner than gas, and in some cases considerably cleaner, but you burn off all the excess carbon when you tear down these forests.